Good evening, Razorback fans. Welcome to the one, the only Hog Talk podcast, live from the Sterling Soap and Roastery Studios, part of the Believe and Buzz Radio networks, where you can hear us on all podcast platforms, as well as Buzz to 106.7 in Central Arkansas. So please like, rate, and review our podcast. And all live shows are presented to you by Arkansas Brewing Company in downtown Ozark. I'm your host, Port Hayes. Alongside me is Adam Hall, and we're also brought to you by BetOnline.ag, your number one source for all your betting needs. Get the latest odds and lines and matchups, reports for baseball, boxing, golf, and more. BetOnline continues to be the fastest and easiest way to place your wagers, including live betting and your favorite casino and card games available to play right from your phone. Head over to the website and use your mobile device to sign up today and get in on the action. Remember to use our promo code BLEAV for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet online where the game starts. Tonight we start off with Team Arkansas TBT. Their run in Wichita ends in the regional final, 63-59 against the host team Aftershocks. Adam, I know you was following along with the action throughout the tournament, but I'll tell you what, the job that Monty did with this team, not being, right up until tip-off of the very first game, you didn't have J.D. Note, you didn't have Courtney Fortson, and Sonny Weems just now played today, so big kudos to him. But what were your overall thoughts of this year's tournament and what this team did?
Definitely a better showing than recent past, in my opinion. The team looked like they had been playing more together than just a few weeks. They had a little, some gel and some coercion together. They looked good. There were some few spots you could tell whether it was the referees or FIBA rules or whatever the case may be, that there were some things that could have gone either way. But I think they really, like some of the teams, lacked a true, like we were talking about, 3-point shooter. We definitely had the rebounds. We had the paint solidified. So really, it was just that pure shooter that they were missing.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, Hunter Mickelson, and Dustin Thomas fouling out there on a questionable call there at the end. Let's we'll call a spade a spade. Yes, there was some questionable calls, but you got to close out a little bit later on, especially because for those who don't know, there is no time clock. There is not. Once you get to that Elam ending, they add 8 points to whoever's ahead, and that's the final score. First team to 63. So you got to know in that situation, you can't allow a 3. A 2, you still get another possession, but a 3 ends the game. And nobody was behind Hunter. He looked back, did not get up enough time. And a guy that they said that was he was 0 for 8 or 0 for 9 leading up to that shot. But you just never know in that moment. But I'm very proud of the team. Adriel Bailey, Brandon Wood, Alex Robinson, Dustin Thomas, Hunter Mickelson, Sean Doss, Jamal Ray, and Jarvis Bernardo made up the team, along with Sonny Weems, who made his debut today. And you could tell he was a little bit rusty, had a couple of good shots there, but we would have been able to really – I think if he would have played the other 2 games, they would have definitely beat this team.
Definitely. And it's nothing knocking him. I'm just a year younger than he is, but, he showed he's 37 years old. But I've also seen from, what he's done in China, it's just coming to that point in his career, things are dwindling down. I wish he had played more with the team instead of today, but I know he had his other commitments in West Memphis this week. I'd just like for Team Arkansas to finally get a team that you don't have players backing out or when the schedule comes out, it's set. So these players that are committing and then dropping out, they need to either not commit at all or stick through it.
Yeah. I was we had a comment on how many points Mickelson had. And I'm looking, the live stats that I'm looking at right now ended with a minute 27 left in the third quarter. And at that point, we're not, let's see, box score for Arkansas. At that point, total points, Mickelson had 10 points. But that was, like I said, that was 3 minutes or a minute 27 left. So I do apologize, JJ, for not having the final stats. And again, when you're throwing these kind of tournaments and stuff, it's hard to get the up-to-date stats like we're used to with stat broadcast and stuff like that. But also, I mean, Aftershocks is a tough team. I mean, they just, they're the darling of TBT. I mean, they had 5,000 people there at the game. And trust me, I've been in the environment that 5,000 makes it seem like there's 10 to 15,000. I mean, that type of, it's like a Barnhill effect.
And that's like Andrew was talking about earlier this week on the show, that they've got that home court advantage that other teams aren't getting. Even host sites that have teams, they don't have the show out that Wichita has.
Yeah, but what else is there to do?
Exactly.
But this user says lots of shots went up in the first half that didn't fall for either team. That's right. I mean, they had a lot of good looks, but they just they didn't commit a lot of turnovers, but it was crucial turnovers when they did. And we were texting during the game. Aftershocks is one of those teams you can't let them go on a run. And I was going to pick my son up, and I think Arkansas was up, and then I looked, and Aftershocks was up 5. I mean, there was something I lost in transition of that run that we talked about. No.
And that's like last night's game for the Aftershocks. I didn't watch much of it, but I remember flipping over to it, and they were down. I mean, it was towards the third quarter, probably, maybe going into the fourth, but they were down almost double digits. And then next thing I know, they're up, and then ended up winning the game. So they're that team that once they get on a spurt, you better watch out.
Yeah, they got a couple of guys. Well, Trey Wade from Arkansas played on that team, and it's just frustrating. You see how many guys that played at Arkansas are playing for other teams, and I'm just like, oh my.
Well, and that's one thing that, because he's been one that they've shown often, so we know that coming from Arkansas. But I was looking at, and again, it goes back to who committed versus who's actually playing. I haven't looked up all these guys to see who's actually playing. But you had Trey Wade, you had Jalen Tate on Carmen's crew, Cody Clark on Friday Beers, Corey Williams on Heard That, Jalen Barford on Jackson, Tennessee Underdogs. Iola was on Purple and Black. He briefly played at Arkansas. I mean, I don't think he got many minutes before he transferred. Desi Sills never ended up playing for Purple and Black. And then he had Justin Smith that was on Red Scare, which is the Dayton alumni. I'm not sure if he's played. I hadn't heard his name. Chris Likes, Darius Hall, and Vance Jackson were all on different rosters at some point.
And there's a whole other side of this tournament that hadn't even started yet. So that's how they break this up. They'll play regionals, and then it's like and that's what I like about it. I love the fact that they're not bouncing back and forth. Like they'll play a whole regional, and then they'll go to the other half. Jack Barford's cousin plays for the Jackson, Tennessee, and that's where he started playing before he come over to Team Arkansas. He played for the Underdogs out of Jackson, Tennessee, right outside of Memphis. So, I mean, I understand that one. Ja'Cory Williams, they tried to get play for Arkansas, but he's played. Heard that. And also, it's what we talk about when it comes to that money. You can pay these players and get boosters per se, like NIL, to play for your team before the tournament starts, because the only way you win any money in this tournament is if you win the whole tournament. So, there's some cash and some boosters that, come up and say, hey, we'll give you $5,000 to show up, and there's been times where Arkansas has been able to do that. And I think this really helped their case of a potentially hosting. I mean, playing the Aftershocks down to the wire in their home arena, I think if Monty gets a good roster set and gets the guys and he had a great roster this year that played together. I mean, he keeps this roster together and Sonny plays a full tournament. I mean, that's to me is a team that could host. And I know a lot of people's going to want Fayetteville. I've talked to the guys and what they look for in logistics, because you've got to look at where XNA is compared to Fayetteville. You're trying to get these guys to fly into Fayetteville, and then they're going to catch an Uber or a taxi or drive all the way into Fayetteville, and that's a 45-minute drive. Then we've even looked at the possibility of Hot Springs, but they would have to fly into Little Rock and then go to Hot Springs. I think Hot Springs would be a heck of a venue there where they play the state championships game. But then there's also Simmons Bank Arena in Little Rock. Or if you can't use the Simmons Bank Arena or the Arkansas alum, I mean, you've got Euler or Little Rock that you can kind of but the biggest thing is we got to get more interaction from the fans. We got to get more buy-in from the university. And I know the team leading up to these past couple of years, it's hard when they only play 2 weeks out of the summer, and just like you said, we are having interactions of when they lose. Now people are starting to pay attention, or they get to a regional final now. That's just the way it is, But I think, man, ideal, I would love to see this thing in Barnhill.
Oh yeah, Barnhill would be the place to play it in if you're going to play it in Northwest Arkansas.
Man, look, if you could, I mean, my ideal, if I had the money, if I won the Mega Millions, I would pay Joe Johnson. I'd be like, what's your bag? What is your bag to leave overseas elite? Because he's been in the Big Three. He's played with overseas elite. Get him and Weems and this team that Monty has.
I mean, Joe Johnson has proved he still has it in him with what he's done in the Big Three. Yeah. I mean, bringing back his nickname ISO Joe for a reason that people had forgotten about. So he would be the piece I would build around if you were going after Arkansas alum, and somebody too that the money it doesn't matter necessarily.
Dusty Hannis as well. I mean, he's caught. Now that's another thing that I want the fans to realize is if you have a contract somewhere else, you cannot play like even a G League. You can't, if you're contracted through the G League or NBA, you're not allowed to play in this tournament. And also, I mean, this tournament's held during the off season of a lot of these overseas tournaments. So some of these guys, they don't want to take 2 weeks out of their vacation or time with their family in the States if they're playing in China or playing overseas, because it's just, I mean, to them, it's not worth it. I mean, to the fans, we would love to get all these Arkansas alum to play. I mean, I think Arkansas could get their guys that they had. I mean, geez, get Trey Wade banger. I mean, he hit the game-winning shot the other night. Joe Johnson, Ja'Cory Williams, Sonny Weems. You get Rodney Carton played with them for a time or two. But
bring back. I mean, Mickelson. Showed me something I did not. When I saw his name on the roster, I was just like, okay, it was just a body. But that Hunter Mickelson versus what we saw at Arkansas and Kansas are two completely different people. And him playing overseas has done nothing. Which I know he's coaching now, but him playing overseas made him a grown man when it came to playing.
I've watched some of them overseas games. I mean, it's brutal. I mean, but yeah, Hunter and Dustin Thomas was another one that, from the time he's played with them before. And I think it takes a minute to really get used to that style of play in that tournament. And you're playing, like I said, again, you're not playing to a final buzzer. So you really say like you're up 63-58. You don't want to score another basket and then the Elam ending start, because it's like you want the Elam ending to start as soon as possible.
Well, and I think you saw that today with the foul just under 4 minutes by Wichita or by the Aftershocks. Is they didn't want Arkansas to hit another basket before, so they knew what the time was, and it's foul immediately.
And I don't know, they were talking about the call. He was trying to get a foul call or something. It wasn't a basketball play, and they were talking. Again, my TV was cutting out during key moments of this thing, but they said something about they use FIBA rules. So I don't know if that's why they didn't call an intentional foul on that one or not. But man, I'm just so proud of the team, proud of Monty, what he's done. I mean, look, you want to talk about Muss was tuning in, and Team Arkansas got a lot of love, a lot of respect. I think this is the most respect they've gained when it comes to their presence in this tournament. They're definitely going to have a team next year. I mean, I think their staying power. Jamie Roberts wants to know what happened to Note. I thought he was going to be on the team. He went to practice, and then we don't know a full of what happened, or not going to really comment on what happened per se, but he showed up to practice and then decided not to be a part of the team. So we'll leave that at that, because you know what? In the end, Monty through the whole time was like, man, who we have is who we need, and quality over quantity. and he was preaching. The guys who wanted to be there were on the team. And I mean, that team did really good. I mean, even from game 1 to game 2, you've seen a big jump in that team. And I think that win, getting that first win, I mean, really, against Ram Up, gave them.
Yeah. If we had been seeded any different, I think, and not gotten Ram Up first, and we had played an Aftershock or Purple and Black first, it would have been completely different.
Mm-hmm.
They needed that Ram Up because honestly, even kudos to Ram Up, because I know the weeks, especially the week leading up to TBT, I mean, they were having at the university, I believe, or somewhere close by, 3-point contest, dunk contest, getting the fans around, coming to their practices. So they had been for the last few weeks solidifying their unit together. So I mean, they came ready to play, and that was a good test to Arkansas to start.
Before we continue, we need to say that this episode is sponsored by Blue Chew. And let's talk about sex, guys. Remember the days when you're ready to go. Now you can increase your performance and get that extra confidence in bed. Blue Chew is a unique online service that delivers the same active ingredients as Viagra, Cialis, and Levitra, but it's in a chewable tablet form at a fraction of the cost. You can take them anytime, day or night, so you can plan ahead or be ready whenever the opportunity arises. The best part, it's all done online, so no visits to the doctor's office, no awkward conversations, and no waiting in the line at pharmacy. Blue Chew tablets are made in the USA and prepared and shipped direct to your door in a discreet package. If it doesn't work or you don't think you need it, try it for a month and see, but you're going to love it. Blue Chew wants to help you have better sex, and discover your options at BlueChew.com, and we've got a special deal for our listeners. Try Blue Chew free when you use our promo code BUCKET at checkout. Just pay $5 at shipping. That's BlueChew.com, promo code BUCKET to receive your first month's free. Visit BlueChew.com for more details and important safety information. And we want to thank Blue Chew for sponsoring the podcast. Just another note on, Team Arkansas's run, and we talked about before the tournament. What would it take to host? What would it take for this team to host? And I think getting fan interaction, number one, like we said, finding a venue where you can really make all three parts of this logistics work. The venue, nice venue. And the cool thing is you don't have to have a big venue. Look at the top record. The record crowd's 5,000 to 6,000, 7,000. So, I mean, you could do it in a Bud Walton Arena. You could do it in a Simmons Bank Arena, or I can't remember.
Well, even watching I'm not sure. I don't remember who heard that was playing the Marshall team today, but the Texas Tech
Air Raiders.
I don't know how large Texas Tech's basketball arena is, but it felt empty watching that game because of, compared to the size wise of, say, Wichita.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to put it in Bud Walton. I think if you got it in Barnhill and it got exciting, say they won the tournament, or they become a team like Aftershocks that you really just get the community behind you. I think it could work. But you start in a place like Barnhill. What is Simmons Bank is in Little Rock, right?
North Little Rock, yeah.
What is the name of the one in Hot Springs? That Bank OZK? Is that
Bank of the Ozarks?
Yeah. Bank OZK.
OZK, yeah.
So if you get a place even like that with a casino and all the, you get that buy-in there. You got people on vacation down there. I mean, it's only, I can't remember what, an hour and a half from Little Rock?
Something like that.
So, I mean, not that bad of a drive.
And about 2 hours from Fort Smith. I mean, Fort Smith would be a hard draw, I think, just because the area, I guess. I don't know. Being from here, it's different to me. But, you've got Stubblefield Center that UFAS plays at. And, I mean, that's 3,000 roughly. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, heck, even the high schools here, North Side and South Side, I mean, they've got over 2,000, per at their gyms. Yeah. So there's venues obviously Barnhill, I think, would be the best looking and best supported one. But I think Hot Springs would work too. You would really have to go in a Hot Springs area. I think you would have to advertise it well.
Yeah.
And way ahead of the game.
Oh, definitely. Well, that's the thing. You're going to have to start preparing now next year. And that's the thing. And again, I really hate it for, trying to get these boosters, because when you're trying to get the boosters, it's in the summer. Like it's hard. And then you're trying to go to these people in October, November to help support the team. And it's hard to get money or something that happens for 2 weeks. They might play one game and they're not guaranteed. Oh, yeah. I mean, Monty put out a thing about, covering a meal while they were up there. That's what people need to realize. Like, they have to fundraise everything they do for these players to come and play, meals, hotels, so I think,
we saw in years past too, there was more Team Arkansas merchandise that they were pushing too in years past. Yes. Compared, I didn't see as much this year, but they were doing whatever they could to raise money.
Yeah. Well, a lot of that's moved to the team store. You have TBT's you go on the TBT fan page or whatever in the merch, and they used to sell jerseys, and I've got a pair of shorts, from a couple of years back that I bought, and then we were talking to Andrew, got the fan pack that had the hoodie or the pullover and the shirt and a t-shirt, but they have a lot of cool, and I'll tell you what, they brought back Puma's got some really nice gear. And really
Puma's really diving into basketball as a whole. It's something they've never been in the last few years. They've really stepped their game up, especially with the NBA talent that they've signed contracts and whatnot.
I think it'd be really cool to see the team really be able to host and have the fans back them. I mean, have the fans really show up and show out. I think it'd be something, a lot of fun. And you talk about the timing, you're talking about, what we're going to talk about after the break, SEC media days and football. You talk about thriving for something to do. Look what it did for COVID. You were just begging for something in sports, and here comes this tournament, and they played it. Then they played the NBA Finals in the bubble. They played the tournament in the bubble.
Well, I mean, I remember during lockdown, quarantines, whatever. I mean, us as Arkansas fans were all sitting around watching simulated basketball games of Arkansas past teams.
Yes.
I mean, that's what we were doing.
It got that bad. I mean, that's how hungry we were for sports. And I'll tell you what, a lot of people don't know about the tournament. And I think we do, when it comes down to it, we do more advertising for it and more talking about trying to get, I've talked with the co-founder of the TBT, Dan Friel, and we've had him on the show and just trying to, what does it really take to get, Arkansas here? And I think getting with Monty and getting with Sonny, the GMs, and of course, Sonny's done a lot of fundraising and stuff for the team to really try to get this thing in Arkansas. And I think it would be a blast. I think it would take a year. I don't think you could really be fair and be like, well, we'll see how this first year goes. And you're going to have to let this thing sit for a year, let it get here, and then give them another host, because once it catches on, and plus, I mean, man, to be able to play in Barnhill Arena, I think having your former players, that would entice other players to come back.
Oh, absolutely. If you had a group of those guys, that played there, practiced there, whatever the case may be, that would be sold out every game.
Oh, yeah. But we're up against the break. After the break, we're going to recap, what we seen, heard, talked about SEC Media Days, the rankings that come out, KJ, second team. We'll get your thoughts, drop some comments of what you thought of SEC Media Days, what your expectations are of this team, and we'll be right back. Attention DIYers and home improvement enthusiasts. Are you searching for the right tools and the supplies to tackle your next project? Look no further than Metters Hardware Store. With locations in Ozark, Alma, and Clarksville, our vast selection of hardware and building materials is sure to have everything you need, whether you're fixing a leaky faucet or building a new deck. Plus, our knowledgeable staff is always on hand to offer expert advice and guidance. And with our competitive prices and convenient online ordering, Metters Hardware Store is your one-stop shop for all your DIY needs. Visit us today, and let's build something amazing together. Are you in need of legal representation? Look no further than the law offices of Robertson, Beasley, Shipley, and Robinson. As the oldest law firm in the River Valley, we have been serving our clients for over 100 years, with locations in Ozark, Fort Smith, and Springfield. Our experienced team of attorneys provide expert guidance and advocacy in a wide range of legal areas, including personal injury, family law, criminal defense, and more.
trusting our history and experience to get the results you deserve. Contact the law offices of Robertson, Beasley, Shipley, and Robinson today at 479-782-8813. That's 479-782-8813. Are you looking for a place to grab a cold drink and some delicious food? Look no further than Arkansas Brewing Company. Located at 201 South 1st Street in beautiful downtown Ozark, our establishment offers a wide selection of craft beers and tasty eats. But what sets us apart is our welcoming atmosphere and friendly staff. At Arkansas Brewing Company, you'll always feel like part of the family. So visit Destiny and Christopher Brockett and staff today and see for yourself what makes us the go-to spot for locals and visitors alike. Arkansas Brewing Company, come for the drinks and stay for the friends. Searching for premium brewery products that will take your daily routine to the next level? Look no further than Sterling Soap Company. Our handmade soaps, aftershaves, and balms are made with only the finest ingredients that give you the ultimate grooming experience. With a variety of scents to choose from, there's something for everyone. Plus, our products are crafted in small batches to ensure the highest level of quality. So why wait? Visit www.sterlingsoap.com or visit our retail store at 16 West Walnut Street in Paris, Arkansas. Shop our collection and discover the difference for yourself. Upgrade your grooming routine with Sterling Soap Company.
And we want to welcome you back to the Hog Talk podcast. And SEC Media Days wrapped up, which always, you're talking about talking season. And, you had your SEC Media Day polls, first team, second team. And I really was surprised that with all the hype KJ got, I'm really surprised that the media picked him second. That was the shocker. I mean, Rocket Sanders getting first team, but I really think KJ, I wouldn't say snub because it's a preseason expectation, but it's also a preseason. You're going off of preseason, how you think they're going to be, and I think he deserved to be first team preseason All SEC.
Absolutely. And I'm not trying to, no knock against anybody that made, first team, second team, whatever. I just think that he is ahead of Daniels at LSU. I'm not knocking him by any means, but he's not shown me an all-around quarterback game like KJ has.
Yeah. And I know it's the team and the hype. So, I mean, they're picked to, win. And so, I mean, I guess I could see why that they did, but that's where the postseason. Now, if he plays better than KJ throughout the season, then of course you put him ahead of KJ. But I mean, going into it, I mean, you can't sit there and put KJ or this Jaden Daniels behind KJ when we know that KJ is a better quarterback going into the season. We can sit there and speculate, what we think he's going to do or what, just because he's on the better team. But that's when they play.
That's like some of the hype of like Milton and some of these quarterbacks that haven't played. So we don't know, but they're getting these high praises when they've, like I said, not proven necessarily anything in the SEC yet. Yeah. So, I know it's all just opinions and predictions and whatnot, but, it's just, I looked at it and just kind of chuckle a little bit, just laugh it off. I would rather nobody be on first or second team and then show everybody up than have all these players from Arkansas on first and second teams and then, get beat left and right.
Yeah. When you look at the stats, though, Daniels had 2,900 yards passing, 17 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. KJ had 2,600 yards passing, 21 touchdowns, and only 4 interceptions. So I could see where, the stats are similar because KJ had 664 yards rushing last year. Daniels had, it only has his passing stats, but it says right here that he rushed for over 500 yards last year. But still, we know that he had 121 yards last year against Ole Miss in his high game last year. So, I mean, stats are similar, but it's all off of postseason expectations or how you think they're going to finish. But other than that, I didn't have a problem with how they even voted. I mean, I think you could sit there and make a case between 4th or 5th in the West how they're going to finish. And, you know, one come out and said 4th, and I thought that's how it was going to be. But then it come out and they were voted 5th to finish 5th in the West. So, you know, Arkansas's got proven. We talked about it last week. This is drop your nut season for Arkansas, you know, and I will credit the guy from South Carolina every time I say that because that's where we got it from. But that's where we're at.
Well, yeah, and like we talked about last week also, I mean, when you go in the SEC West and you're 8-4 or 9-3, I mean, that's the difference between 4th and 5th place in that division most years. So, you know, I'm ready for it to get here.
Yeah. And quick question, why is Mizzou always tough game for us? It feels like it should have beaten them so many times. Bad juju, curse, juju. My biggest thing is the end of the season. I will always say that it has to do with where it's played at the very end and when you run through that gauntlet of the West and how they've been handled with depth issues throughout the past couple of years. And it's a game that Missouri, it's not like a game that Missouri doesn't play up for. Missouri that's their Super Bowl. That was their game last year to become bowl eligible. So it was a more of a win situation for Missouri than it was Arkansas when it come to getting bowl eligible or, hey, are we going to go, you know, what bowl are we going to get? You know, so – but a lot of it is just they just end up having Arkansas's number. I mean, until Arkansas starts winning the game, you can't make any excuses for it. You know,
you really can't. I mean, Mizzou goes into that game fully prepared. Whether I like Drinkwitz or not, whatever. I think he probably beats it into his players and coaches' heads how much Arkansas fans and Arkansas doesn't care, and how they just need to go and prove, you know, that they're the better team, whatever he does.
Yeah.
But, you know, like he came into the press conference, like I said, last year with the cigar in his mouth. And like you just said, that was their Super Bowl, you know, and, you know, this year, a couple weeks back, I mean, he posts a picture on his Twitter of a full roasted pig. And I'm just kind of like, does he think this bothers us?
Oh, it does. It does. It does. It bothers everybody, whether they want to admit it or not. And I will say it bothered me, but because of the fact that you had to sit there and eat it. And I retweeted it. And I said, hey, until Arkansas starts winning these games, that's what it is. You know, Arkansas is the better program. And John Neighbors got laughed about what he said on the internet. And he was on with SEC Mike. And you know what? South Carolina feels the same way about them. You know, there's other teams that keep losing to the Missouri Tigers that they know they're a better program. But it does bother. It is a rivalry. Look, I will down right now at this point in juncture of the game, it's a rivalry. When you hate them and everybody's like, well, we don't hate them. No, because if you didn't hate them, you wouldn't care. But when they throw shade at your team or put the roasting hog, you've seen how many people was in an uproar about that. You don't get that kind of reaction if they didn't care.
And I agree with that. I just looked at it kind of like, because I have seen the fans that, you know, they have their superstitions on game days. They won't eat pork or they want this, they want that. And I'm just kind of like, I'll make some ribs. I'll make some pulled pork. Like, it doesn't faze me one bit. But, you know, Eli knows what he's doing. It's going to get to the, you know, it's like we've talked about, whatever's for the clicks and the interactions and the likes and the views, you know, that's what he's going to do. He's going to do what he does to get under the skin of opposing fan bases.
Well, and again, a lot of it is, one, people stuck on the Texas rivalry, which we're going to get back next year. So you can have multiple rivalries. And now, am I saying Missouri is the number one rivalry in Arkansas? It's between that or A&M right now. I mean, you can't say Texas is a rivalry when you don't play them every year.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a rivalry to me is when you play them all the time and You just hate them, they hate you kind of deal. Now
that's, going back to, I mean, I don't want to jump too far ahead, like to next year and whatnot, but, we've got to realize too, with Texas and OU coming in, for years, we wanted, LSU, the Battle of the Boot, that was the rivalry for us.
Yes.
And then they threw in the battle line, and then we've got a trophy for Texas A&M. But you got to realize too, Texas A&M is now bringing back Texas. That's going to be their big rivalry game. So we're going to, you got to, if you want a rivalry, you're going to have to find somebody, because some of these other schools, especially Texas and OU coming in, have had a much longer history or a lot more bad blood than Arkansas has with them.
Yeah, definitely. And that's where I think the Missouri rivalry is good, because you're down in the hole. You've got to, it's not one of them things where you've got to reel in, I said, 2 or 3 in a row before you can really be like, okay, we got a handle on this rivalry. You can't win every other year and say you got the upper hand in this rivalry. You've got some catching up to do.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, I'd love to see, I know everybody wants to bring back Texas like yearly, and I'm all for it. But at the same time, living in Fort Smith for the majority of my life and living around so many OU fans, yeah. I would just love to be able to shut them up here and there.
Yeah.
Just settle it on the field.
Yep.
Because, it's just one of those things that I detest OU because of the fan base that is so close to here.
And that's why a lot of people detest A&M. You look at like Kyle Richardson's era and age, the era that their fandom, really ramped up, of them being a fan during the Southwest Classic. And you can see why that is.
Mm-hmm.
You can see and again, they just can't ever seem to get a handle on that game. So they, of course, the fan base, we'll see what Jimbo and Bobby Petrino does, but, there's a lot of inside information that they're not getting along right now. I hadn't heard any, official reports on that, but we'll see how that all goes, because just because you bring 2 alpha males in to run your team, if Bobby's wanting to come in and run things his way, and Jimbo's got to give up the reins. He has to. He's got to let Bobby run this offense.
Well, and that's, I remember, I think it was last week sometime, somebody had made a comment on that, he wouldn't have brought Bobby Petrino in if it wasn't to call the plays. And I get that thought process on paper, and, that looks all good and well. And Jimbo even came out after the hiring saying that Bobby had full control. But the only reason he came out and had to publicly say that is because even Texas A&M fans and media were questioning if they're going to be able to coexist. So it wasn't just something, as somebody had put, drinking the Kool-Aid or whatever of the Arkansas fans. It's even Texas A&M fans that are questioning it. It's nationally questioned. Can they coach the same team? Can they coexist? I guess is what I'm saying.
You look at one of the greatest, and I'm going to bring broadcasting into this, one of the greatest radio shows on ESPN, Mike and Mike in the Morning.
Mm-hmm.
They hated each other, didn't like each other one bit, well documented that they just could not get along. But they made a great team, because when it turned, you turn the mic on and you do your show and you're getting paid millions of dollars to do this job, you put the BS aside. I can't discuss on this because we're going to be on the radio, but you put all the BS aside, do your job. I think that's what this could. But my thing is, Jimbo's seat's getting hot.
It is. I just question, though. I know his buyout gets less and less every year, but it still is not cheap. I think he's still in the $30+ million range in his buyout.
But you know what? Texas A&M got that money, though.
Oh, they do.
That's a drop, but that's where we're at. But I think he's got to prove, because I'm one of them. I'm an ACC guy, right? So I'm one of them. And I want him to prove that he can win without Jameis Winston.
I'm glad you brought that up. Speaking of ACC and Clemson, how do you feel about your new offensive analyst, Chad Morris?
Jesus.
I had to.
I don't. But all I can say is because this is the thing. All right, we'll go off in this rabbit hole for about. I'll give me 5 minutes. Fam.
All right.
5 minutes, because I want to call out my own fan base. I've talked to my fans, my family. They're looking at this with blinders on their face, like he's going to come in and be this savior again because of he recruited Deshaun Watson. Like it. I was more upset at the fans' reaction than the actual notice. And this is the funniest full circle thing that happened. Do you know who broke the news that Chad Morris was going to Clemson?
Uh-uh.
Christina Long. She is a reporter, used to be at Arkansas, just went to Clemson to cover. For those who don't know who Christina Long is, guess who daddy is? Jeff Long. Jeff Long's daughter is the one that broke the story to us fans out in Arkansas that Chad Morris is going back to Clemson. And I didn't say anything tweet because, me and Christina are friends, and I do not ever want to bring any negativity social media wise. Because if I'd have said, hey, look, full circle, whatever, blah, blah, blah. I don't want to bring any negative because I'm sure she's heard that her whole life and she's a dang good journalist and doesn't deserve that. So that's the reason why I didn't say anything. But no, I don't like it for the fact that everything he's touched since he left the first time, he's demolished. I mean, he got ran out of the best high school in Texas. If they leave him alone and really if he just doesn't touch anything, he just becomes an analyst or helps in recruiting, I guess I'm okay with it. But it's too soon. Like, we get enough crap because of how the nation views Dabo now. There's a lot of people who do not like Dabo. There's a lot of people who despise him because of his arrogance and, little things about running before the team down the hill. He gets criticized like crazy when it comes to, what he does. And I think that's because they beat the King 2 years and 4 years, 2 out of 4 years. They become that new team in college football. Everybody hated Ohio State. We're going to start turning on LSU. People are already complaining about Georgia, rightfully so, because they brought it on themselves.
They did.
People are we're going 7-5, but I don't know. It's one of them things that it shocked me when I found out about it. But it's like, okay, it is an analyst role, but still, yet it's like, try living in Arkansas, being a Clemson fan, and then they announced that the guy who brought the worst years to that program is now going back to Clemson, and everybody's laughing at us for it. That's the biggest thing. Oh, I got calls and left lane hammer down in Clemson. I'm like,
yeah, I wasn't going to bring it up this week, but I was going to. I knew you were soaking in it, and so
yeah. But you know what? I'll be the first. I'll flip script if they lead to another national championship.
Of course. But yeah, going back, to the media days, do you think that the way Sam Pittman is viewed, there's never really anybody that says anything negative coaching-wise or even media-wise. Is everybody too in love with him and what he's done at Arkansas?
I'm gonna throw out a hot take.
Okay.
I think he's underrated.
Okay.
I think they look at him as the good old boy. I think they look him as that party guy because you look at all the questions they ask him, and it kind of pisses me off because it's either about drinking beer or his personality or what songs. They don't really grill him about his coaching stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They don't grill him about or give him credit for. He just lost his OC and DC, and then he kind of upgraded in some sense on what he got. I think that's just what I honestly think. I think they think he's that good old boy, and they run that narrative because he goes with it.
He does. I think he got more love, in my opinion, and got to talk more about who he brought in, bringing in new OC, new DCs, and everything. After he stood in front of the media when he was on the panel with the 4 guys after he got done talking before the next whoever spoke after him was. Wow. When he was sitting there and, they were talking of just, is he going to bring, the zero coverage and, just kind of joking with him. But at the same time, they really wanted to know what are you going to bring in with this defense? What are you going to bring in with Dan Enos? And they let him talk about it.
Yeah.
Whereas when he's on the podium, he doesn't get to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, he's undervalued because, again, they think that, but he's got to prove a lot this year.
Mm-hmm.
I understand why. I understand why that the criticism's there or of who he is, because he is that good old country boy. He is that good old boy. But I think they underestimate him. I think there's a lot of coaches who buddy him, but they underestimate what he can do. And I think that is another reason why he wants to win. I think that's another reason why he's going to upgrade his staff. He's going to get these players in. And with KJ, I think there's going to be a lot of people, because this is a thing too. This is another hot take, because this is how media is these days. They're buddy with him, but they underestimate him. But if he wins, I always knew him. He was a good guy. They bought in and blah, blah, blah. They'll be able to flip script because they always liked him, but it was always personal. There's always his attitude or his good old boy status. But I don't think a lot of them think he's going to win. And I think he's going to prove them wrong, and that's just my honest opinion about it. What do you think about it?
I would agree with you. I think he's got to prove himself. I think this is the season to do it. But I do think that people look at him as not a threat, not a target. But I think he needs to take that and hone it in, and then, go for the kill shot with some of these teams. You can, I know it's going to be completely different from last year, but we saw too many times Arkansas pull the reins back, take their foot off the gas, whatever the case may be. And, we let teams back into the game. Like, that's got to stop.
Yeah.
Because too many times it almost, bit them in the butt. But, he's, in front of everybody, the man doesn't have a mean bone in his body. And I'm not saying that he does. That he needs to, I'm not going to say drop that persona, but he's got something to prove, I feel like.
Yeah, and I don't think you need to ever change who you are.
No.
You look at Courtney Deifel. Look at what she's done. She's sat, but she's shown sass too. I think you need to show it at times. I think you need to pick and choose your battles, of course. But with Sam Pittman, he just has that look like, all right, blank.
Yeah.
Keep messing. It's just one of them things that y'all keep. He's not dumb. I think he knows that. Yeah, they're buddy with me now, but do they really think I can win? Do they really think that, is this just all for TV? Is this all for show? And once he starts winning, how many people are going to be like, you're going to see it. Now, if he wins, say he goes 9-10 wins this season, you'll watch all these people saying, oh, I knew it all along, because they've sit there and held him with their arm around his shoulder saying, I knew you could always do it. But if you could put true serum in these guys, I guarantee you half of them think that, no, they're going to win 6 games this year. They're not really win. And I don't know. It was funny when you asked me that, it just clicked in my head. Like, I hadn't ever really even thought about that question before, but it's one of the things. I think they do Mike Neighbors the same way. He's that Arkansas boy that just is really nice, and he's a good guy, but he's never really been held to the fire. I think there's a lot of coaches that are. I don't know if it's the Arkansas persona that they all get, but there's warranted. I'm not saying they're crazy for thinking that, because again, like we said, progress needs to be made. But let's catch up on some of these comments and questions here.
Yep.
This one right here says, Bobby coming in as a chess piece for Texas A&M. In my opinion, Jimbo knows he's gone soon. If he doesn't win, Bobby's insurance. 100%. I've said that. He brought him in because he's in a hot seat and he needs a drastic change. But he has to have the ego enough to sit there and let him have the reins. And this right here, do you think Jimbo and Petrino dynamic will be similar to the Houston Nutt Malzahn deal? No, not even close. That Houston Nutt Malzahn deal, we could make a whole podcast about that. And there's no lie, because there's just so much that people don't really know about the situation. They don't know, and we don't know. I've heard a lot of both sides of it. I've heard it from former players. I've heard it from former media. I've heard it from people who was on the inside, but two sides to every story. You know, I've heard so many crazy things that was going to go on. So no. That the Houston Nutt Malzahn deal was personal because both of them were Arkansas guys. There was a lot of pressure on both people to win. There was a lot of pressure on one of them to bring players in. And some of them didn't want to go to Arkansas. There was some people that did not want to go to Arkansas. And I think people knew it, but they were forced to come to Arkansas. And you know what? I mean, it's easy to laugh at people when they go off to other schools and don't produce. But you know what? When you have something taken away from you that you love, and that love is gone, you're not going to. You can't not love the game and play on a high level in Division I sports. You got to have a drive and love for the game, and you can't. And that's all I'm going to say about that part of it, because, like, again, we could do a whole episode about that. And we had Bartley Webb he's the one that went to Notre Dame on a podcast, and we talked about a lot of things, and a lot of things were shared off the air that we can't comment on, you know. But Bobby coming in wasn't Jimbo bringing him in. I disagree there, because you know, you got to think Bobby was out in UNLV. He was gonna be with Barry Odom. So Jimbo makes a call. And then a lot of people, the funny thing is there were some people that jokingly said that he found out Jessica was living in Dallas. So he moved closer to Dallas. You know, it's one of them things, you know.
I looked at it because, I mean, even I read an interview not too long ago, a few weeks ago, but it was with Barry Odom and the whole deal. And I mean, he was blindsided with it. And you could tell just on his interview that he was holding back a little bit because he didn't expect it. It came out of nowhere. So I think that was totally Jimbo making that phone call, bringing him in. And then also, I mean, Bobby going from Missouri State, then yes to UNLV, but this gets him back in the SEC. This gets him back in a little bit of limelight that he wasn't going to get out at UNLV. He's going to be talked about week in and week out to get back to a bigger Power 5 D1 school.
Just think about this. You're going to talk about subtraction and addition, and God rest his soul, Pirates up in heaven right now, Mike Leach. But you know, he passes away and he's no longer with us. And what do? You talking about God does not have a humor. Let's take away Mike Leach and let's give you Bobby Petrino and Hugh Freeze.
Jeez.
I mean, it's just like the SEC wants to, you know, be that conference. And you talk about there's more drama than there is, because I mean, that's the thing. You got Bobby Petrino, and I can't remember who it was that was saying they were roasting Auburn because they got rid of Harsin, and then you go out and hire Hugh Freeze.
I don't know what Auburn is thinking. I'm not, you know, Hugh Freeze did a hell of a job at Liberty. I will give him that. But I still think things are going to turn out pretty close to how they did at Ole Miss when it comes to whether it sanctions him doing the things wrong, whatever. Auburn, in less than 5 years, Auburn will be looking for another new head coach.
Yeah. Well, but that, again, it also depends on how they do these new pods and these new divisions.
True.
You leave Auburn in the West, like look at Arkansas and Auburn and Mississippi State. You know, they're all just kind of they're the ones. You can even throw Ole Miss in there. They're loving this new potential schedule because you don't have to play, you know, Texas A&M, Alabama, LSU, then turn around Auburn even when they were good. You know, because there's always 2 or 3 teams that are really good, and then of course you got your powers, and then of course you get like Florida or Georgia or something like that every year. It's just the irony.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think everybody deserves a second chance, and you know, the people's personal life, you know, it is what it is, you know, but it's just like it's a business, and you're going to have to win. And I think Jimbo it was desperate and needed him to come help revive his offense. And I'm telling you, if you want to talk about something like what LSU doing, look how quick they turn things around in LSU with Brian Kelly. If Jimbo just lets Petrino do his thing, and they don't have to like each other, but if they can coexist, like co-parent, if you can co-parent and work together to make this thing right, they're going to be a dangerous team because they got the recruiting.
Oh yeah, I mean Bobby Petrino, if he's there more than a season, he's going to have a pick of the litter when it comes to players to get.
Yeah.
So, it's one of those that, like you said, everybody deserves a second chance. I met Bobby when he was head coach of Arkansas in a past retail management life. He was a customer at one of my stores. And then I talked to him once or twice when he was head coach of Missouri State. And I will say just those interactions, I mean, he's a different person than he was back then. Just in his, his presence, his attitude. I mean, he's just night and day difference. So,
and he gets a bad rap for what he did, and what he did wasn't right, but hell, I'm different 20 years ago than I'm different 10 years ago than I am today. Sometimes it just takes a little bit time to grow up, and the older you get, the temptations are lesser. You know what I'm saying? Like, and let's just be real about it. Like there's not too many people going after 60-year-old men. I mean,
no. Unless you've got that, that money coming in.
Exactly. But, it's just the fact that he's a grandpa now, and, he loves his grandkids. I really honestly thought he was just going to stay at Missouri State. But if you throw enough money to the man, you pique his interest and of course he's like, hey, we can go to Vegas. And then instead of that, he goes to, College Station. I'm really interested to see how that dynamic works. It's either going to be very good or it's going to implode.
Oh, it's going to be one or the other. There's no in between.
But and as we come up on football season, I think I calculated it with high school coming up. I think we got 3 more weeks until there's football, and that's including the high school games and stuff like that. So
because I have my my daily countdown I do, and we're 41 days today, and then I see all these other countdowns, and I'm like, no, it's not. Then I'm like, I have to think that there are other things than Arkansas football.
Exactly. But 40. So we're 41 days out from the start of the football season. We've got a couple of things that we're looking at venturing out and doing. Me and Adam have talked about a couple of the games. We're going to be doing a pre-game show at a to be determined location on game day. I think that's going to be a lot of fun to get out and do a live spot. We might even do some post-game stuff. It just depends on what our logistics allow us to do, but I think it's going to be fun to start doing more of that. The wife and I, we put it out on Facebook last week. We went to OARK Burger, and to me, it's the best burger in the state. It's just, I don't know if it's because I've ate there since I was a kid, but we're going to try to find the best burger in the state. And we're going to do it together. We're going to pick one spot. We're going to announce, and what we're wanting to do is we want that signature burger. So if we come to said spot, we want your signature burger. So fans, starting tomorrow, I want to drop the best burgers. We want to start in Northwest Arkansas. What's the best burger in Northwest Arkansas? Put it in the comments, put it in our DMs. We'll pick a spot. Whoever gets the best votes, we're going to go to it. We're going to try it, and we're going to give it a scale rate to 1 to 10. We might try a couple of them. You never know. But we will announce, and this is not even a timed over the next couple of months. We might do this for the next 6 months and then declare who we think has the best burger in state. But that's what we're going to do. We went to OARK. To me, it's going to be hard to beat that one. So restaurants, vendors, bring your A game, because it's going to be tough to beat that burger up there. And their signature burger to me is the Angry Hornet. It's their spicy cheeseburger with fried eggs. So, you're on the clock. So fans, drop it in the comments. We're going to post it out in the morning, but we're going to go out and we're going to find the best burger in the state of Arkansas. We're going to try to hit all 4 corners, find somewhere, and determine who's got the best burger in the state.
Well, in Fort Smith, in my opinion, you've got Yellow Umbrella. And
Okay.
the Fort Smith folks will know what Yellow Umbrella is, but they have been around. It's just a little yellow shack that has not changed except for a paint job for the past 30, 40 years.
Okay. See, and I heard of it, Ed Walker's and stuff like that, and their burgers are good. But so I'll have to write that down. Yellow Umbrella in Fort Smith. Where's it located at?
It is on Old Greenwood. It's close to Ballman Elementary School. So it's off of Rogers Avenue. It's not too hard to find by any means.
Oh,
so it's just
you turn left off of Rogers on the. Okay, I know what you're talking about. Okay.
Yeah,
definitely.
So it's one of those. They're really only open at lunchtime. They're not open of a night. It's a little stand that you can eat outside, or you eat in your car, or take it to go.
Cool.
So there's no indoor seating or anything. So you have to bear with the elements.
Yeah, that's fine. I've had a food truck in Best Memes in Batesville. They invited us to come out. So they might be the first spot we go to. We don't know if we're going to do the food truck route. A lot of these are food trucks. We want to go to an establishment and a restaurant. But if we say Best Burger, we can't rule them.
Yep.
So,
definitely.
Adam, you got anything else before we wrap it up?
Just talking to the season, and I'll probably hit on this a few more times before the season gets here. Looking at the schedule, when BYU comes to town, we need to treat their fans as well as they treated us when we went there.
Yes.
I mean, by all means, we heard nothing but great things from our fan base on how they were treated, so we have to return the favor.
I agree with that 100%. 100%. Yeah, just show that Southern hospitality, and
exactly
like you would that the baseball. They always
that
baseball team that comes into the regionals and stuff. So if you have that same vibe, same energy when they come back. All right. Well, that will do it for this episode of the Hog Talk Podcast. Again, we are brought to you by betonline.ag and bluechew.com, and we will catch you next Sunday.